Okay, we're ready to go.
C, can you go ahead and start the recording?
He gave me a thumbs up. We're thumbs up. Okay. Laura, are you all set to start the recording?
Yep, yep, go ahead.
Okay, I'd like to call to order the Conservation Advisory Council for the town of Niskayuna. This is the March 4th, 2026 meeting. Why don't we have a roll call? And I see Dan here, Ellen, Portia, and Joy is online, and Clark is here, and yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Okay, Laura, did you get that roll?
Yep, yeah, that's good. I think we have potentially an applicant or maybe someone for the
Yeah,
public.
that's sort of what I couldn't read the.
Yeah, we
couldn't
have
read the
someone named
computer.
Sam online.
Yeah, okay. So we have no minutes to approve. So why don't we move on to the privilege of the floor?
Sorry, Chairman. Actually, there's a Boy Scout group that is joining. That's probably who Sam is. They're joining to watch a public meeting and earn a badge. So they're learning about government tonight.
Oh, okay. Well, welcome. Okay. For privilege of the floor, we have a guest in the audience. Would you like to say anything? No? Okay. And is the Boy Scouts online, Laura? Are the Boy Scouts online?
I believe they are. Yeah.
Do they have any questions for the board? Okay. Just for the Boy Scouts, this is the Conservation Advisory Council, and we are really our main role is to enforce the state SECRA, and that's the State Quality Environmental Review process set forth by the New York State law, and that requires us to look at projects and before the town and evaluate their environmental impact on and their impact on the infrastructure on the town, and really decide whether the projects will adversely impact the environment, adversely impact the character of the neighborhood, or put a undue stress on the utilities and stuff. And it's not a minor impact, but it's a significant impact. And if we believe that a particular project has a significant impact or a potential significant impact on the town, then what we will do is we'll make a recommendation for a positive environmental impact. And what that would do is that's a recommendation, and depending on what the project is, either the planning board or the town board would act on our recommendation. And if the town board or the planning board agree with us, then that potentially requires the applicant to do a more detailed study and basically look at those environmental impacts and either demonstrate that they are minor or make modifications and propose alternatives to minimize it. So I welcome you to the meeting. Okay, if we have no privilege of the floor, then why don't we go to the EAF assessment forms? So the first one we have is EAF 2026-04. That's 46 Commerce Park. That's a special use permit for a daycare. And we looked at this project last time, and I think one of the concerns we had about this particular project was because this was a daycare and because of where the site was located within the town, potentially being near a prior industrial use or manufacturing use, we were concerned about the soil and whether the soil would present an issue. So the applicant went off and there's a letter out that Laura's showing right now, and New York State did a phase 1 environmental site assessment for the property, and that includes, taking samples and on the soil and basically ensuring that it's not hazardous. Laura, would you like to add anything to that?
Man, I'm just keeping myself on mute. There's a couple changes to the plan. Since we saw it last, they're bubbled out in red. They're very minor. Let me just bring them up here. So they made this incoming road a little wider. They added snow storage areas. They added like evergreen screening around the dumpster so that you can't see it from most of the road. And they made asphalt a little wider, and I think that's largely just to accommodate kind of the honestly like the bigger dump trucks that would come in and dump the dumpster. They just had to make sure that they could make that turn and it would be safe. Yeah, and then you can see they added the snow storage areas there. The only other change, which is also again very minor on the subdivision, they made the lot a little bigger. So now it's 2.57 acres. Before it was just a little bit smaller. I think they did that just to accommodate a little additional snow storage area and to help with their stormwater. But still a daycare. Still the daycare that's moving from 1335 Balltown Road. Their lease is up and they're not renewing. So this would be a standalone daycare building. They're taking, I think, all the kids from there and then hopefully being able to add 15 to 20 additional kids because daycare is very much needed in Niskayuna still.
And Laura, I don't have the spreadsheet in front of me, but I know you do on the status of the TDE review. I know there's been at least a first comment letter from the TDE, and the applicant has revised their EAF form a little bit, and there's good communication going on back and forth, I believe. So I don't think there's any major issues from the technical side.
Yeah, should be able to share that, but
You don't have to share it. Just maybe
okay.
just look at the latest entry there. There should be a comment in the bottom.
46 comments. Yeah, latest comment, first comment letter received.
Okay, yeah. So there has been a first comment letter, and I guess they haven't responded yet.
Yep. But it's in progress and it looks good so far.
And what was the scope of that letter that they were looking at?
They were looking at the whole project, the stormwater, or yeah,
Traffic?
yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
The stormwater, this is adjacent to a stormwater pond that needs to be updated.
We talked about that last time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the stormwater mostly just kind of moves to that stone swale at the front. And then at the back, I think it kind of sheet flows over into a swale as well.
And I know we've mentioned it at the planning board a couple times, but there's an existing stormwater pond. I guess it's to the east of that. And there's a separate project with the Gillespie Group to restore that stormwater pond to its kind of original condition. So that's going on basically in parallel to this.
Yeah.
They know that it has to be done in order for this to be approved. So.
Was that the thing that was a contingency for the daycare to take that site?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Did you guys have any more questions on
Are
that?
there any more
I can
questions from
bring up
anybody?
the form.
So just that, so they did come to a consensus because originally I thought the daycare wanted the garbage in the back.
Yeah, they looked at it. I guess they had concerns because they think that they may even use some of that asphalt for playing games and having the kids, outside. So they thought that they wanted to still keep any kind of commercial traffic to the front, away from where the kids might be. So
Okay.
they decided it'd be safer for them to keep it up front and screen it. That's why they put the screening there.
Yeah. Plus, it also helps prevent all that weight on the over time on
Yeah.
asphalt. Okay. All right. Just wanted to make sure that they.
Yeah, they looked at it.
Yeah.
They decided to do the robust screening instead of moving it.
Joy, do you have any comments at all on the project or questions?
I wonder if they have any site lighting layout.
Oh, yeah, they do.
The application includes one. So is there any light pollution on the neighboring properties?
I'll share that. They do have a lighting plan. Our code allows, I think, 0.1 lumens at the property line. And I believe that they are fine, but I'll just scroll to that one for you. Hold on. Just give my old computer a second.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Maybe we need to relook at that. Because
Oh, we froze it.
Another,
Yeah,
Yeah.
they
another
do
point-
have a photometric plot like we see on a lot of site plans with
Mhm.
the illumination at various distances.
I mean, there is a future pole mounted light in the back. And
Yeah, I'm sorry. I might have crashed my. I think it's just a couple pages past the page I was showing you guys, though.
So is your concern that if they put a pole light in, it's going to be too bright to the neighboring?
commercial land, though.
Yeah.
There's nobody who's there at night.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, the neighbors are a stormwater management basin and an empty field. Across the way is like a HVAC place, but you can see here's the lighting. They would be allowed a 0.1 actually at the property line, but every place on this property line it's down to 0. So there shouldn't be any light bleeding at all beyond the property lines here.
I would recommend that we discourage the use of high blue light and bring it down to more yellow light because that's more disruptive to wildlife.
Yeah, so let's see what their color temperature is here. Oh, I
The
can't
blue,
read it.
the really high temperature, like 5,000 degrees, that's very disruptive to wild.
Yeah,
Where if you're down lower than that, that's better.
which is night sky.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting with these lights, and this is something we should really, I think, as a town, really look at
Yeah.
this because
I didn't.
I don't think we need a high pole light here. I think you could actually do Ballard lights and just
Yeah.
shine down on the parking lot, and I think that would be a much better way to do it.
It is a good topic because it's come up at the planning board a couple times.
yeah, it
The
has.
the coolness or warmth of the light, and I think
But
they've
also getting it
they've
down.
kind of zeroed in on 3,500.
Mhm.
There's some concern over if it gets too yellow. There's some studies from police departments that it can make it difficult to identify vehicles or colors of clothing or something like that.
Mm.
So there's been a couple projects at the planning board where planning board members have kind of pushed that more towards the 3,500 seems to be a common midpoint.
Okay.
That
Okay, this project's before the board, and do we feel we're ready to take an action on this?
Yes.
Okay, so Laura, why don't we go through the questions on this, and then we can make a motion.
Okay. Will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulation?
No.
No.
Yeah, it's standalone daycare buildings are allowed within the zoning. So I don't think there's any conflict there. Will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of use of land? So we usually say small here if
Yeah.
they're building something because they are changing the intensity. It may not be moderate to large, but we usually at least know that, I mean, a new building is kind of changing the intensity of the use.
Yeah. What do you think?
Yes.
Yeah, I
Okay.
agree with that.
All right.
Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community?
No.
No.
Will the proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that cause the establishment of a critical environmental area? We don't have those.
Yep.
Just gonna zoom in a little more for you guys. Okay. Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkway?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to generate more traffic.
Yeah.
In the Commerce Park though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is it's not going to like tip it over the top.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We could say small. It's sort the
Small,
road's
yeah.
sort of built. I mean, actually, right now it's completely empty.
Yeah.
So it would probably be nice to have some cars there. Will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy, or does it fail to incorporate reasonably available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities?
So I didn't see any, I don't see any mention of renewable energy
Yeah.
opportunity, anything. Did I miss that?
No, I think
No,
that would be correct. Yeah.
I think we should add that note. I mean,
Yeah.
there's actually probably plenty of room if they wanted to put some solar panels in the back.
Yeah, that would be a great lesson for Montessori
I was going to
children.
say that.
And they should be composting too. She has a lovely
Yeah.
compost garden. My
Yeah.
kids went to
Sometimes.
Montessori. Come on.
Okay, so we'll put small and then put the note that they should incorporate renewable energy and look for places to add solar panels and make it part of their curriculum.
Yeah, yeah, green. Yeah,
Mhm.
Low lighting.
Yeah.
Anyways,
And Ellen, we actually, this, as everybody knows, this is kind of a really tight scheduled project. So we have a call every Tuesday at 9 with someone on this project. So I've kind of primed them about the CAC's group of initiatives that we would like them to strongly consider.
Mhm.
And they said they would make it solar ready. And I talked to them a little bit about pesticide free and LOMO. So maybe at one meeting, if somebody wanted to hop on from the CAC, somebody could make a formal pitch to them on some of the initiatives.
That's a great idea,
Yeah.
Clark.
yeah, send it. Yeah, just send an invite or whatever. And
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
you said every Tuesday. Okay,
Ev-
I'm not here next Tuesday, but maybe somebody else is available to.
Is what time are those meetings?
I think it's 9 o'clock. I'll double check.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ellen, if you can't make it,
I just can't make it this Tuesday. I could, yeah. So
is it
but
this Tuesday, Clark, or is it next Tuesday?
It's every Tuesday.
Tuesday.
So,
Every Tuesday.
yeah.
I could just make it a different one, but I just can't make it this Tuesday. Anyways,
Let me know. I'll see if I check my schedule.
Okay, will the proposed action impact existing public-private water supplies or wastewater treatment utilities?
Small, but there's not a problem there. So
Right, their size.
the lines are already there, right?
They are already there.
Yeah.
Yep. There's actually 2 low pressure lines, and one of them isn't even being used because they didn't have any buildings.
Yeah.
Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources?
No.
Will the proposed action result in an adverse change to natural resources, wetlands, air quality, flora, and fauna?
Well, I think you just got to note the wetlands.
Yep.
And the moving.
And
the-
I think here's a good place to put the note about pollinator-friendly habitat and
Mhm.
LOMO too.
yeah.
Yep.
Will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems?
No.
Yeah, I feel like we should say no, but I think it's good to note that that the adjacent stormwater pond has to be rehabbed in order for this project to go forward.
Right.
Yeah, no, let's make that a condition, Laura.
Laura,
And
but I
then-
also think it's kind of helpful that this project is instigating the rehabilitation of that stormwater pond too.
That's
You know,
true.
without this, it would just be in the same state
condition.
it's been in for a long time.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
that's kind of a
definitely true.
benefit to this project.
Yeah, it'll make it better. It'll make it better so less water goes over to Iroquois Village, I think. Will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health?
No.
Okay,
So we've gone through the questions and we have some comments. And I think the comments are the energy efficient, low-mo, pollinators. These are just recommendations that
Yeah.
we would like them to follow. And I think the lighting.
Pesticide-free.
Okay, with those comments, would somebody like to make a motion?
Motion for negative declaration.
Second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for a negative declaration. Any other comments that anybody would like to make before we call vote?
Just say who made the motion so she knows when she takes up the notes.
It was Dan and Portia.
Yeah.
In that order.
yeah, thank you. That helps Trish a lot.
Thank
if
you,
you
Ellen.
just
Just
keep
keep
it
on
me.
poking me and I'll get that eventually. Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Okay, I believe the motion carried unanimously. Okay, let's move on to the next EAF. This is EAF 2026-5, 3900 State Street. And this is the Matthews Kia. This project has gone through a lot of different evolutions, but we looked at this project back multiple times, but we gave this project a positive deck. And our major concerns was an encroachment on the residential area, that we were converting lots and open space into parking lot. We increased the amount of pavements, and we had a removal of single-family homes, or one in the final one. The tree council was concerned about tree removal as well. And we made that recommendation, and I can't remember exactly when we made it, but that recommendation went to the town board, and the town board approved the project in September of last year. So they overrode our recommendation. And from what I understand, there was another recommendation that came, another revision of the project that came after the one we saw. And it actually was better from meeting some of the objectives, not anywhere. They were still taking down the house and all that sort of stuff. But, and their corporate entity looked at that revised plan and basically told them to go back to the original plan we looked at, that the town board had approved. Did I get that right, Clark?
Yeah, I believe he did. Do you agree, Laura?
Yeah, that's right. Yep. So we're sort of back to the one that we made the original recommendation on, which is included in the packet.
Why did they revise it if the town approved it?
And it was really all about, it was really odd that they basically gave up some parking spots. They eliminated some double stacked parking spots up fairly close to State Street, if you remember that. They added a little more green space, and it looked more attractive. It looked a little nicer, but they did give up several parking spaces.
Yeah,
And
more like
I think
30.
when they reviewed it with their corporate ownership, I think they pushed them more to go back to what was approved.
Again, though, do we know why they even changed it? If the
Yeah,
town
so
was
they
okay?
changed it because the town board actually asked them to try. So they did try. Unfortunately, Kia has very strict like rules, and I think they were okay with it, but their parent company said no. So they tried, but then their parent company said, if you're going to have these millions to fix the place up, you have to have the parking spots. So they came back to the original plan.
Okay, so it was based on some town board comments, Laura.
Mhm.
Okay.
So the town board took as many comments from you as they could and said try, because I mean they're certainly very respectful to what you're saying. So they did try.
And there was also a little bit of the project manager from the Clough CHA side
Clough
kind of
River.
changed right around that time too. So there might have been viewed a little differently from CHA at that time. So that might have played a little bit of a role too.
So how many, so how many actual parking spaces was it? Because when I looked at this, I mean, we had seen this before. We already said how we felt about it, and then it was approved, and then they came back with a different one. So, which is difficult to figure out when you're reading this. Like when I was
Yeah,
reading
we
this
didn't
last night, I
actually-
was struggling.
Yeah, we didn't actually put that plan in here. I mean, it is a point of fact. They did try to reduce the parking spots and add more green space, but they weren't able to. So we're not actually commenting on that plan. We're really only looking at this superseded plan, which you can see that the double parking is kind of along this entrance here. I don't know if you can see my cursor, but it's along this entrance here, and then it's along. So they kind of moved the double parking up towards State Street. The new plan, it's very similar, but they flip flopped where the double
It's on page
parking is.
55, I think.
Yeah, so the double, yep, here we go. You can see they actually flip flopped it. So the double parking actually faces State Street here now instead of this entranceway. So they have, and the reason for it is they get a lot of inventory that they're not moving. So they can put their stored inventory in the back and then, you know, park there because they'll be the ones moving the cars around in the double parked spots.
And that was also a recommendation of the planning board, I believe. They wanted to push the more commercial part of it up towards State Street as much as they could and try to keep the part that was going down South Fagan Ave as residential as possible. So they tried to push more of the parking up towards State Street.
They went back to the earlier larger version with 221 spaces.
Yes.
And in the October 2025 version, that was 203.
The other thing they did do is they lost a few parking spaces around the Norway spruce that the tree council really wanted them to save. It's a big tree. There's a picture from a neighbor of a bald eagle in there. It's kind of like an emergent spruce. So the parking lot was kind of close, and we were worried that if they put the parking lot that close to it, they're going to kill the tree anyway. So they did bump that out. I think they lost 2 or 3 parking spaces to bump it out so that the pavement isn't so close to the Norway spruce. But in totality, the plan is basically the same as when you guys recommended to the town board, you know, with the exception of the flip-flop parking and them giving a little more space to the Norway spruce.
Yeah, so I think the issue here is we made a recommendation for a positive declaration, but it was a recommendation, and it was the prerogative of the town board to basically agree with us or disagree. And the town board a lot of times agrees with us, or the planning board a lot of times agrees with us. But in this situation, they basically said, let's try to incorporate some of the stuff in there, but we're going to allow the project to go forward. So the project's back here, and I think the question of the board that we have is, irregardless of what the town board said, do we still think that the project creates a impact to the surrounding neighborhoods?
Before we even talk about that, I'd like to understand the protocol. If they're putting forth the same plan that the town approved, Why are we looking at it again?
Because you guys actually withheld your recommendation on site plan. I think you were hoping that the project was gonna change. And it tried to change, but it didn't.
Okay.
So
Ye-
protocol wise, I know we don't have a lawyer at our meetings, but protocol wise, if the plan hasn't changed a whole lot, you do need to make sure that you're being consistent with your findings, so that they're not arbitrary and capricious. So my recommendation to you guys, because the plan had not changed since your recommendation to the town board, that you really, my recommendation to you guys is that you really need to continue moving forward with the recommendation that you made before.
Yeah, I think that's the nuance there was, it's the site plan that we're actually making the recommendation on tonight, as opposed to what we made
Yeah.
prior to that.
Yeah, if you remember
There's two parts. We broke that up on purpose. I remember doing that.
We only ruled on the one of the parts?
Yeah, to expand the parking, the automotive sales down onto the 2 lots, that required a special use permit. So I guess that's what,
So we made,
Is-
that's why the town board, the recommendation went to the town board, because town board approves the special use permit.
I see.
If the project had come back and they changed it drastically, we could look at it differently.
Yeah.
so Laura, is that true then? So they're making a recommendation on the site plan now and not on the
Planning
special
board.
use permit?
Correct. The use permit has been issued. It can't be removed
Right,
there.
right.
This is to the site plan, but and the hope was the site plan would change a little. They did try, again, but then Kia said no. So really the site plan ended up staying the same, which was allowed, by the town board. So now it's back to planning board, and because there really just wasn't a lot to change once Kia said no, then they need that final recommendation from you guys. And what I'm saying is, even though maybe some things have gotten better, I don't think it's substantially changed enough that that unless you guys disagree with me, because I mean there is the positive benefit of them protecting the Norway spruce. But generally speaking, it's not very different from the last time you voted on it.
Yeah, I think my question is answered. The first time we made a positive declaration on the special use permit,
Or we saw the layout.
we saw the plan, but we didn't specifically make a recommendation for the site plan. Tonight, where you're asking us to do that, can we just copy and paste the same? Sheet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have it up here.
Without
Unless
doing it.
unless your findings are different, I would just recommend that you just adopt this as written.
Yeah, I would.
I like it.
Go ahead. Do you want to make the motion?
Motion to make a positive declaration with the same questions as our last.
Same comments.
Yeah, same comments, same answers.
Yep.
That's
And
the last one.
I'll second that. So, do we need to have any further discussion on that? And that was Dan that made that, motion. Okay, if there's no other comments on this, let's take it to a vote. All those in favor of adopting a positive deck on this project using the same language that we used in the prior, evaluation, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, it carries unanimously, and we have a positive deck on the site plan for this project.
So is there, is there anything else that we can say to anyone that, that this is just, that this is a poor, it's disappointing. It's very disappointing.
Yeah.
It's very, very disappointing that we're taking down a home for a parking lot in Niskayuna in order to sell cars.
Mhm.
One thing that Dart and I talked about, and actually the town board encouraged us to do this too,
It's not to
Is
say that's-
to put it in the comprehensive plan and make sure the zoning protects the house. Because one of the biggest things that was hard on this is that the house was zoned commercial highway, and the person who owned that house could actually take down the house and come in and request to put a McDonald's there, and the town couldn't really say no, right? Because of the zoning. So it is like we fought really hard to keep the house because it's affordable house and it's really important to have affordability in that neighborhood and it's walkable to bus stops. And I'm all in favor of all of the findings that you guys made. I think they're really important. But one of the things the town board really wanted us to do, which we're working on it because it would put them in a much better position, is to change the zoning and protect the houses along Amherst and just make sure that that line is correct so that those single family homes are in the R2 district and not a CH.
And I think, I think, Ellen, that's a good way for us to think about this. What we did with our positive deck is we raised awareness of the affordability issue in that neighborhood. And, you know, in the comp plan, there will be recommendations to change the zoning to reduce that potential threat. So
Okay.
I'm all for another strategy to pursue in order to, protect different zones. But Laura, can't they just apply for a zoning change or a special use or whatever it is called?
So
Like,
they can. The
That won't
single-family homes-
stop a project, right? There's just a different
well,
avenue they
it's a
pursue.
lot harder.
Well, they certainly can, but actually, those single family homes were very frustrated with us the first time because very long ago, like 2 or 3 years ago, the CAC recommended a positive deck for 2 homes to come down, and the town board adopted it. They said 2 homes was too many. It was changing the character of the neighborhood, and it stopped the project. And the homeowners called me up furious because the homeowners of those houses wanted to sell them to the car place. So not everyone maybe has the comprehensive plan in their mind. Sometimes they own a house and they're ready to leave and they just want to sell it to the highest bidder. And a lot of times commercial places might pay a little more than a family that would actually be moving into the house. So sometimes the town actually needs to do the rezoning. It won't necessarily come from the single family homeowners, if that makes sense.
It does, but my point is zoning it does not prevent a project, right? It just makes, like to Dart's point,
Well,
harder.
I think if it's in the comp plan and it requires a zoning change, like if we change the zoning there and it's in the comp plan,
Town would think
that's
twice.
a very hard, hard upstream swim. so to
Yeah,
speak.
no, I mean, it's basically not allowed. You'd have to jump through hoops that are not, the problem is what's allowed as of right. You know, like as of right in a commercial highway zoning district, you could have a gas station there. What if you change the zoning to R2? What's allowed as right is a single family home. Then if a business wanted to encroach into an R2 zone and put a parking lot there, the town has so many good levers to say no. Because it's not allowed. They would have to go way above and beyond and really prove that this is needed.
I think from the perspective of looking at this zoning, this CH zoning was done a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I think in some ways, if you look at how this parcel was, the line sort of dipped down for whatever reason. It wasn't consistent with the other part further west, but it was there. And so when Kia came, it was already a CH zoned area for the majority of the project. So that makes it difficult. And I think the fact that, overall the project saved at least one home. I mean, we did have some success here. I mean, we're not going to be successful all the time.
Sure.
That's,
No,
Right.
that answers.
that's the reality.
And it should be noted that Kia, set that up many, 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 many years ago with that, or had that place and knew what the capacity was. And they changed it at the corporate level, demanding that the places have more space for cars.
Mhm.
So, so it's a method that they also changed. So it's not like they didn't know what they weren't getting into originally when they got the property.
Right. They approved a franchise and then changed the goalposts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's yeah.
But I think I
Yeah.
feel comfortable. I feel comfortable with our decision. I share your disappointment that it didn't get carried forward, but I think you'll find that if you're on the board for any period of time,
Yeah, yes. I mean, it's not our first.
Disappointment's part of it.
Yeah.
It's not our first one, but
Not our first one.
No.
Okay, let's
yeah, but
move
I
on.
really think part of you guys pushing so hard saved the other house.
Yeah.
I mean, I really think a lot of good was done. Saved the other house, saved a couple of those big trees. We are getting a sidewalk going directly to the bus stop. We are getting street trees, which should do some fair amount of cooling in that neighborhood. So, it's not a terrible. I mean, yeah, it's a balance.
and it's still in there in the project about the microphone or microphone system on the. I did, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, they took that and wrote that directly into the special use permit. The lighting, the microphones, the landscaping buffers, that's all written right into the special use permit, which makes it good and very easy for us to enforce if we get a complaint, we can just go right to that resolution and say, you're violating your special use permit. You can't do that. So that all got written right into the special use permit.
Okay.
Are we good moving on? Okay.
Yep.
Let's go to the next EAF, and that's 2026-6, and this is a two-lot minor subdivision at 3515 on Rosendale Road, and that is on the eastern side of Rosendale. We've looked at this project a couple times, and I think one of the concerns was part of the property was on in Colony, but Colony basically said they're not an interested
Bless you.
party in this. So, Clark, did you have anything else you wanted to add to this project? Does anybody have questions about this project?
We looked at it, but didn't vote on it.
We looked at it, we didn't vote on it. Yeah. Laura, do we have any information or concerns on this?
I mean, I personally think we should incorporate all the normal things we do for subdivision, noting the LOMO, and if you're going to build something here, make sure that it incorporates renewable energy and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a pretty standard. It's not a particularly controversial subdivision. There's a bit of flat area next to this guy's house that can access the house behind him. So very likely this is actually just going to make it so that the house behind him that's landlocked can have their own driveway. Possible that there might be a new house, but it's more than likely that it'll just be a nice addition to a landlocked parcel to make it actually have frontage, which would make the lot more conforming. So to me, I think the standard conditions here are probably appropriate, but it's a very minor subdivision.
Yeah, it's actually better to not have a landlocked parcel.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So we're hopeful that that's going to be the outcome of this subdivision.
Are there any other questions or concerns?
Can I just ask, when did we last look at this? Was it before or after I joined?
It was before.
Okay. Making sure I'm not crazy.
Really? I thought we looked at it like 3 months ago. This is the one
Well,
behind Dollar Tree.
Yeah, no, actually, we had this on last meeting, and
Oh,
Very
yeah.
briefly
briefly.
talked about it.
yeah, just
Yeah,
very
okay, I
briefly,
stand
the
corrected. It
applicant
just seems
was
like
here.
we've
No, I
been
do
looking at
remember
this
this now.
forever. Yeah.
You say Dollar Tree, I remember.
Yeah.
And then I put it on as a report the meeting before. But we do actually look at this parcel. We have Lou Lisi had looked at this parcel for a multifamily building, like taking down the single family home and putting in a multifamily. And then we did actually look at this parcel even before that when they were building the Lisi Arcadia building right there on Route 7. So this is kind of the least intense use that we've seen for it.
I mean, did they put forth what the goal was? Like why they were asking for it now? I mean, I guess.
Yeah, the owner's relatively new. I think he bought it within the last 2 years or so. But he was talking to his neighbor, the landlocked home, and I think they kind of came to a understanding that if he's able to get this subdivided, that he would probably sell it to the neighbor, and then the neighbor would combine it with his landlocked parcel and then make a driveway of his own. Right now, he has a shared driveway easement, but that's pretty tough. Like over time, a landlocked parcel, it's just tough to have those landlocked parcels and shared driveway easements. They work great when you like your neighbor, and maybe not work great when you don't like your neighbor.
Yeah. Do we need to do uh, a form?
Yes.
Yep, I'll bring it up. Here we go.
Having grown up at one point in my life in a situation where there was a shared driveway, it's really not the best situation.
Yeah, we discourage them at a planning board level. Sometimes developers like to propose them because they're cheaper. But
Well, no, the situation I'm talking about was non-conforming, and if the neighbor parked in behind you, you had to go knock on their door to have the car moved.
yeah, so
Now, I wasn't driving at the time, so it wasn't my problem, but,
and I don't know his neighbor, the one that would like to buy this parcel, and I mean it's actually his mom that owns the house where they share the driveway. So that works great. But in the future that, if people change and it's not within the family anymore, that can get really hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go through the questions and,
Okay. Will the proposed action create a material conflict with the adopted land use plan?
no,
No.
Will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of use of land?
No.
no,
Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community?
I
No,
see.
I mean, if they're
no.
going to put a driveway in, I guess it's going to have a little bit of an impact, but I don't know.
Yeah. You know what? I think maybe let's just put a note there, that a driveway will have a little impact, and we would request that they retain any of the existing trees if they're going to put the driveway in.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
There's
just make sure the driveway doesn't shed water on the other parcel.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, so we'll put those notes in. Will the proposed action have an impact on the CEA? We don't have any of those. Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkway?
Nope.
No.
Will it increase the use of energy or fail to incorporate reasonable available energy conservation?
Nope.
But I think here we should just put our note that if, there is a new build that it incorporate renewable energy.
Yeah, okay.
And then will the proposed action impact existing public-private water supplies or wastewater?
We're not
It's already-
putting a building on the property, so.
Will
If
the
they do
proposed
have to
action
go
impair
and put
the
a building on the property, they'll have to, that will have to be assessed, right?
correct? Yeah, through a building
It
permit.
wouldn't
There
necessarily.
is actually water and sewer on that private road that they could probably connect to.
Okay.
But right now, they're just proposing to combine it with the existing.
Laura, that wouldn't come to this board,
No, it wouldn't.
no, because that would be just a
Building permit.
Yeah.
building permit.
We're looking at it because they're dividing a plot, right?
Yeah.
We're looking because they're changing the
Right.
lines, yeah.
Do we ever look at ones where they combine plots?
Nope.
No.
Those can be done. Those can be done administratively. So if they're combining lands, they can just bring that to us. We check and make sure that there's no zoning violation, which there never is to combine lands. And then they go to the county and they just combine the tax parcels together. The one thing people have to understand is when they legally combine them, they can't uncombine them. They'd actually have to come to a subdivision to uncombine them. So it's very easy to combine them, but you have to subdivide to uncombine them.
Okay.
Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources?
No.
Will the proposed action result in an adverse change to natural resources?
No.
Nope.
And then will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage?
As long as we don't shed the water from the driveway.
Yeah, we can put that there again. And then will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health?
No.
Okay.
Okay, so we made a couple comments. I'll make a motion for a negative deck.
Second that.
Okay, so Dart made the first recommendation, Portia seconded it. Any discussion further?
I don't think so.
Okay, all those in favor of a negative deck, say
Aye.
aye. Any opposed? Okay, so that one carries as well unanimously.
My goodness, it's almost 8 o'clock and we're so productive.
So next time we go to 11, remember this meeting.
It's not
I know,
even, it's
yeah.
not even 8.
It's not been 8 and we're already like, we've already done like 3 things.
Okay.
Knocking it out of the park. Choo.
All right,
Uh-oh.
let's go to the next one, and this is
Wah, wah.
EAF 2025-01, 2757 Aqueduct Road, and this is the PUD that we've looked at multiple times, and we're just looking at it again, just for comments. We're not going to take an action tonight on it. We
But I
had.
do think you'll probably need to take action on it at the next meeting, just so you know. So I think right now is a really good meeting to start really honing in on the environmental impacts that you want to call out. And we can try and have the applicants come to the next meeting too.
So what I would suggest we do is let's go through and make a list of what our concerns are and what we want to see addressed. Does that make sense?
Yes, because that'll help all of us throughout the month.
Okay.
Well, I mean, we made
Well
this
on it.
list back in 2024.
What list?
The
Oh, in the
proposal,
packet.
yeah, the impact of wildlife, the preservation of green space, the diversity of housing and aesthetics, mixed use, bike path crossing. So I just,
Well, let's go through it. We'll go through this and see if they've sort of addressed some of those things, if some of the stuff still holds. And then I actually have another one that I don't think we went, because I think when we looked at it initially, there was just a generic site plan on there for the PUD, and it has changed.
Sure.
Yeah,
I'm not saying it's changed necessarily for the better, but it has changed. So they may or may not have mitigated some of the comments.
I mean,
Why
they
don't-
still have all of their wetlands all in one spot. Like they, I mean, they have, all right, well, go ahead.
I like
No.
making the list.
So let's go through the list, Ellen. Why don't you go and read the list? that we
Okay,
went
so
through?
it's in our notes.
Yeah.
So let's just start. It
let's
says,
just
so
formally,
it says impact to habitat and wildlife. We felt that this was a unique parcel that provided great habitat and forest lands to the town and want to preserve as much as possible. Noting that the comprehensive plan survey data that indicated town residents value green space as a premium.
okay.
So
So what this let's talk about this, because the project is going to donate the riverfront property to the town. So if you look
Which
at that,
makes it public, but that doesn't erase the fact that they're bulldozing a lot of forest, right?
I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is, if you look at the map there, I'm just bringing it up. That's the green there is now going to be all open public space.
Which is nice.
usable.
And you can get to the green without going through the blue.
Yeah, we're connected.
Clark or Laura, do you know that?
It's on the bike, off the bike path.
No, the bike path.
Right. What I'm saying is, do you need to walk through their parking lot or their road to get to the green? or-
Yeah, you can access the green from River's Ledge, and I think it's still open to discussion and access to the western side, that, like what Laura has shown there on the left.
So that's
that's a public parking lot. So we do still probably need to make sure that there's access from Aqueduct Road to the public parking lot.
Right.
But yeah, so there probably needs to be like a green line that goes from Aqueduct Road down to this parking lot with a public access easement. But generally speaking, yes, they're connected to River's Ledge. They're making a public parking lot here. This will be a public kayak launch. These trails would be accessible unless the river was flooding, and it'd be 11.1 acres of parklands to the town. They are disturbing a fair amount in the blue, but they are reserving the green. So
I mean, I think the way you got to look at this is this is an impact to the area. But the question is, and I don't know the answer here, are they attempting to mitigate, and is the town benefiting or is the wildlife benefiting, right? I mean, again, it has to, there's a balance here. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just trying to explain to primarily our audience.
Yeah, I remember reviewing the list that you're referring to, Ellen. But again, I think it was general impressions. The biggest impression I have from that picture and the last, like this specific plan, was the density of how close these things are to each other.
Yep.
So I think we should put that on the list.
So, I mean, we have the preservation of green space, basically benefit. So I think when originally we saw this, there was discrepancies in the numbers of acres that were disturbed and not disturbed. And, but I think now that we have it, I think maybe what we need to address, I mean, because it says diversity of housing and aesthetics, mixed use. So originally, wasn't this going to be mixed use, or is that a different project?
Yeah, no, it's still mixed use. It has condos and townhouses.
Okay, wasn't there one that was businesses on the bottom and? Or is that-
That was Rivers Ledge Senior Center, I believe.
Okay.
The Rivers
Yeah.
Ledge, and that does have a
Okay,
commercial.
that's still
space.
coming as well, right?
Yeah, they're building that
They're
right
on
now.
the other side of,
That-
The Rivers Ledge Senior Center building is kind of on the west end of the Rivers Ledge site. So that's actually all built and done and occupied now. That has some commercial space on the first floor
oh,
and,
okay.
and it has apartments, correct, Laura, on the upper
Yeah,
floor?
Rivers Ledge is all apartments.
Yeah.
These ones are owner occupied, which is nice. They would be condos and townhomes.
And
But they aren't proposing any commercial in this one.
Okay, yeah.
And it's actually, it's in the narrative. I can't remember if that's in the packet, but the project narrative has a good description. You can see the 5 townhomes right up by Aqueduct Road. And then there's a majority of them are 4 unit condos. And then there's 6 or 8, Laura, I forgot now.
It's
The,
8.
the larger
Yeah.
are 8. Okay.
Mhm.
So that's their mix of units between townhomes, 8 unit condo buildings and 4 unit condo buildings.
So it looks like they covered the Mohawk River and the access and then the bike path access. And then I think the last one is just the review of lighting, trees, views, and the wetland delineation and buffering.
Yeah.
I think that's,
So let's go through each of those. The lighting, we want to make sure that it's appropriate. I think there's a real problem here potentially with the lighting.
Wasn't that the first project they did on Aqueduct Road before I was on this board? Was the number one biggest complaint of the people across the river, right?
Yes, lighting.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to repeat that mistake. So, and I know, oh, we'll plant trees. That takes years to make any difference.
Yeah, that's also been discussed at many planning board meetings, and the applicants have actually said they don't plan any streetlights on this project. Do you remember that, Laura? Because I know it sounded a little odd at the time, but
Yeah,
Um,
that's what they said. I think it's kind of more like a neighborhood where like the buildings might have lampposts by the driveway, like the little ones, that you turn on from your house, and they might have some like lighting on the house, but they said they don't expect to have street lights on the streets.
But I think that's a good example of kind of a lessons learned from Rivers Ledge. The lighting is an excellent point, and the impact on views from across the river
And
would be a
driveways on
good
the bridge
would be a
and,
good point.
everybody-
yeah.
So the builder's probably going to put those individual street lampposts in. Is that correct?
I thought I saw that was in here.
Yeah,
that
and
every,
the association is going to maintain them, right? Because there's going to be an HOA here. So I think I think that's an appropriate comment that, again, we'd like it to conform to the night sky, approach a night sky way of doing it, right?
so this is where you're going to run. This is why when you have density like this, that when everyone has their own light, it's like it's so much lighting. It's unbelievable. Like, I mean, if you drive down streets in Niskayuna that don't have street lights. You see some people leave their, lights on all night long and it annoys their neighbors, you know what I mean? And then you see other people that don't have their lights on, but the houses are spaced out. There's no getting away from this. This is going to be lit up like, the 4th of July here.
Also, I want to make sure when we make comments that just because they say no street lights, they could put them on the corner of the building and have huge floodlights that do the exact same thing and illuminate the
Yeah.
whole parking
Yeah.
lot.
And
But-
actually, Rivers Ledge that's one of the complaints is the Rivers Ledge lighting lights up the white siding on the Rivers Ledge building.
So have they submitted a lighting plan, Laura?
I don't think so.
No.
So that would just be comments that we would add. They haven't gotten into the full engineering because this is
Yeah.
still kind of the planning side. They wouldn't engineer it if it wasn't going to get approved. So
I think it's a great point to bring up the concerns about lighting. There has been a little bit of talk about how this land is far enough west that there isn't any populated area directly across the river, I guess. But you still will be able to see it to some degree, I would think. But I remember at one of the meetings, they mentioned it's far enough west that there aren't homes directly across the river like there is at
Yeah,
Rivers Ledge.
But again, it's the homes, but it's also, there's been eagles in this area and wildlife,
Yeah.
and the lighting needs to be
Yeah.
minimally
I
impactive to the
Yeah.
surrounding area. I understand what you're saying. Ellen.
yeah, I guess,
You can-
obviously we care about the lighting. I think that, the density of this is it's very dense. This is a lot of condominiums and townhomes in here. It had, don't know where.
One of the things that Laura and I always try to do is just communicate what's been discussed at the planning board meeting. So it's not meant to be on one side of the fence or another, but density has been talked about a lot. And one of the challenges, I think, with the project like this is I believe they show the calculations on the site plan that they meet the zoning code for density in terms of the total plot of land, and they meet the requirements for open space, I believe. But it does feel like they have a lot of the buildings in the more usable land. And one of the things that's come up a lot at the planning board is with the wetlands and the 25-foot buffer that our zoning code requires to the edge of the wetlands, we require a split rail fence to delineate the 25-foot buffer from the wetlands. On a couple of these spots, that fencing is right up against
It's
the
very close.
proposed buildings.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and I think we should really look at that, because I was looking at this parcel here, and it almost looks like the 25-foot buffer goes across the road. And particularly, I'm looking at the 4-unit cluster adjacent to the stormwater ponds on the western side.
Yes,
So if you scroll, Laura, yeah,
it's all the way, it's
it's
a
yeah,
single
it's right
unit.
there. So that dotted line, does that represent
Page
the buffer
73.
there, Laura?
I muted myself again. Sorry.
Oh.
Yes. This little red line is the 25-foot buffer. They are actually proposing to go into that buffer, and the only way you can do that in our code is to take an impact. And so you can see this little carve out here. They're actually planning, although they may not actually impact that wetland. Hopefully they don't. They have accounted for that
I'm pretty sure
that road going into the buffer by taking a wetland impact here.
Where's the wetland impact? I don't see where.
It's this little darker.
Let me just.
You see this little darker spot here?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the wetland impact they would take.
So could you explain exactly what that means?
Yeah, because our code doesn't allow you the ability to waive the buffer. So in order to go into the buffer and put something like a road, you actually have to get a permit from the Army Corps of Engineers to disturb the wetland, even if you're not disturbing the wetland, just so that you can go into the buffer. It would count, like the Army Corps gives you, I think, up to 1/4 of an acre that you can disturb under a nationwide permit. So they have to count this square footage in their wetland permits to the Army Corps of Engineers. They have to count this like they're disturbing the wetlands. Even if they hopefully don't, they would be allowed to go into this little corner in order to build the road and then put it back, essentially. And there's a couple places where they're asking for wetland impacts from the Army Corps. That's one of them. They need to ask for impacts like here when they're building a road through the wetland. So they have to add all of those wetland impacts together. Here's another one over here. They have to add these all together and then figure out what the acreage is and then submit that to the Army Corps of Engineers to see if they would approve it.
And I think what they're claiming is that's below the 1/10 of an acre or the threshold.
Yes,
Yeah.
right. So they
Laura,
get
so
an
could you go back to your first example then?
This, oh yeah, the one I zoomed in on, this guy? Oh no, the other one. Sorry, probably.
Yeah, the other. I'm just for clarity. So where would the 25-foot, where would the split rail fence be? With
So-
they
yeah.
do their buffer. I mean, they do their impact there. Where would the 25-foot split rail fence be?
So they don't have it shown on this drawing, but essentially, can you guys see my cursor? This
Yes.
Yes, now we can.
bottom line would become the new edge of the wetland, the new edge of the regulated wetland. So you would do a 25-foot buffer from that, which so the fence is going to be like right on the corner of this road right here.
So I think one of the things with this plan, and it comes up with the stormwater design too, they haven't completely designed all the stormwater basins to the nth degree. So there may be some adjusting of the site plan as they get deeper into that. So some of the exact locations of the buildings might slide slightly for some of these split rail fencing and things like that. So that's kind of built into this review, right, Laura? That some of the conditions and things that come out of this may tweak the site plan going forward.
Correct. Yeah, this is kind of like you can think about it as almost like the special use permit, which is setting the big rules for the use. Then the site plan will come in with the engineering and the lighting plan and all that, and then we can tweak some things. The site plan, like when they actually do the engineering calculations, they may have to be like, oh, we can't actually fit this building here. We're going to have to lose this building. But the use, so I think what you're really looking at is, I mean, yeah, the density, like Clark had said, I think it's balanced with the more affordability, but you're looking at the density, you're looking at the open space, you're looking at the wetland impacts, you're looking at the clearing, limits of clearing. We're looking at site plan could make some of these things less, right? Because they may have to lose some of the buildings, but you wouldn't see more than this. This would be the sort of max.
And again, well, sorry, Ellen, but I think the comments earlier on lighting, especially relative to the density, is just a great comment because there's been a lot of discussion about density, and a little bit more density kind of comes with a more affordable priced by Niskayuna standards dwelling unit. But I think the insight is very good that when you have buildings put so close together, you have to look at lighting even more because they're so centralized. kind of. So, I mean, that seems like a really good
Yeah.
thing to come out
I
of
mean,
it.
that's it. We should forward these comments because we don't want to get through the entire site review and then say it's unacceptable. I think it's appropriate for us to make that comment up front. Laura, could you explain to us how the wetlands connect to the Mohawk? Because they have the stormwater going into these 3 retention ponds that are going to go into those wetlands. Where does it go from those wetlands?
Yeah, so these wetlands here, where they're kind of proposing to add the stormwater area, they drain into this long, thin wetland that is on the old Erie Canal bed. So, like, the reason that they're not actually putting a trail on the Erie Canal bed like River's Ledge did is because it's all wetland.
Mhm.
But then, so all of these wetlands drain this way. There's kind of a stream. This thing is actually like a stream that comes down here. And then the stream comes down and they all drain this way and then they drain into the Mohawk over here.
Okay, so one of the questions I have is we're going to take the entire site. Well, let me ask a prior question. Stormwater management, what level of flood are they going to meet? Is it a 100-year flood or is it 25-year flood or?
It's usually 25, right, Clark? Clark knows that.
I believe so. Yeah, I believe that's 25 year. And Dart had asked that question a little earlier about the wetlands. So there is no DEC wetlands. It's all Army Corps because it's all draining to the Mohawk. Correct, Laura?
Yeah, and some of them are considered isolated. So these wetlands down here, it's kind of hard to see them. But like this wetland here, you can see Army Corps walked the site and declared it non-jurisdictional. So that wetland's just being filled in because it doesn't have any environmental protections. But these ones, these darker ones, do have protection, and so they're getting the buffers and they're getting a permit to disturb less than 1/10 of an acre.
Laura, what is the current buffer? How many feet?
Our buffer, when it's Army Corps of Engineers, is 25 feet.
And this is one of the few areas in Niskuna that's not considered an urban area by the census map. So the 100-foot buffer doesn't apply. Correct, Laura?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Laura, I want to come back to the 25-year flood. So these flood limits were established quite a while ago, and the intensity of the rain is substantially higher than it is when these limits were set. So it's probably likely that the 25-year flood event is probably insufficient for today's types of rains. And I think that's been actually pretty much acknowledged by a lot of governments and stuff. So the question
Yeah.
is, why are they doing 25? Is that what our code requires, or is that?
That's what our code requires.
that's
We
what our-
did have this conversation with the Postnelli subdivision. We can go back. I think we actually, on the Postnelli subdivision, had them designed to the 100-year or maybe even more than that.
We did,
Because
yeah. There's
The
been,
area around them was so dense and so known to have flood problems that we said, you have downstream drainage issues and you have got to actually, like, you have to do better.
Yeah,
This one we could ask. I don't know that it has necessarily established downstream drainage problems, but I agree with you. We have a history of asking for more, and we know that the storms are getting more intense, and the 25-year rain event is being exceeded. So yeah.
yeah. So this goes down to the crux, I think, of having all the retention ponds concentrated in that site. So you have the roofs of the buildings, you have all the storm water from the pavement literally being directed towards these ponds that are in this one area of wetland. If they're designed for 20, they're going to concentrate all the nutrients, all the phosphorus from, they use pesticides, is going to get concentrated in the rock salt. And if you have a major event there, all that's going to get stirred up and it's going to get dumped into
A river.
this small area here. And, you know, I think we could run the risk of having a really degraded wetland in this development, which nobody wants. And then the second concern that I have is if we're draining through the wetland and we have a 100-year event, are we going to erode the canal bed? Are we going to flood areas downstream because we don't have enough flow downstream of these retention ponds? So I think there's a number of concerns with that. Certainly, I don't think it's a good idea to integrate the retention ponds in the wetlands, let alone concentrate all the water in a single spot, which this is sort of doing.
Yeah, we can pass that comment on. We actually had it before. Brett, the engineer, has talked about maybe being able to put some stormwater in this area where these houses are, and then also maybe being able to catch some in, like, I can't remember what he called them. Maybe Clark remembers, but like you drop there's sort of like stone beds around the house where the water from the roof can go. So yeah, what he's saying is they could do more micro treatments and hopefully reduce some of those big stormwater basins, but they haven't put that on a plan yet.
Yeah, I think that with the 25-year event, I don't think there's a lot of risk, and I think this whole thing really needs to be looked on a comprehensive level, making sure that the water gets out to the Mohawk without an impact on the surrounding wetlands and erosion and stuff.
I think that's a good point too. Dart, I had mentioned that Laura, at a previous CAC meeting, he mentioned the concern over the retention basins being within the wetland areas. And we included that in the scope of work for the TDE to look into that a little bit.
Okay.
But I think the 25-year storm requirement and what impact going to a higher storm event, we can weave that in too. Because I know on some of those other projects, it didn't impact the stormwater design as much as you might think. So,
Yeah.
so it's something that they may be able to design to without a huge impact on their part.
Mhm.
Laura and Clark, can I ask you a follow-up question?
Yeah.
So in 2025, last year, the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation has expanded the wetland buffer. And so the 25 feet is the town buffer, right?
Right.
That for urban area.
Mhm.
And they expanded the 100 buffer to 300 feet for certain types of wetland and the 800 feet for some other areas. So I wonder, for the town buffer, is there something equivalent to their expansion?
Well, we would have to put that in code, so it wouldn't be able to apply to this site,
Mhm.
but potentially, yeah, so they kind of separated their wetlands in some, if a wetland has sort of keystone species or it's a wetland of special importance, it gets a bigger buffer, and their ecologists can go in and look for specific species there that will tell you that this is very high quality, very rare, needs that extra protection.
Mhm.
I mean, we could probably go in and look and see if we could do that. The interesting thing about Niskayuna is it's so built out. We
Mm.
don't have a lot of the types of wetlands that they're trying to protect because we're just so dense and already built out. But it doesn't mean that we couldn't look at it.
They also mentioned the nutrient pool
Mhm.
wetland,
Mhm.
and that buffer has changed from 100 feet to 300 feet.
Yeah, we could look at that. I actually would be happy to work on that with any one of you guys. It'd probably be good to talk to the DEC too and see if they think that there's places in Niskayuna where we have those special wetlands. DEC did walk this site with the applicant. Clark and I felt that these wetlands were adjacent to a designated census area and would have DEC jurisdiction. But they felt that they were far enough away that they don't. So DEC didn't take jurisdiction on them. So the DEC buffers don't apply. But that doesn't mean that in the future we shouldn't look at our code and potentially adopt stronger buffers on areas that are more sensitive.
Yeah, Joy, when they first started this project, the new DEC requirements had recently come out. And Laura and I were kind of surprised, like she said, that the DEC ruled those wetlands non-jurisdictional. So we actually had a phone conversation with two people at the DEC just for our own benefit to explain to us why they weren't. And they explained it. So
Mhm.
we understand it a little better now.
But yeah, those levels are because of specific needs. So it may be better in the future for us, for our code to reflect those different levels. Yeah, and because there's quite a difference, you know, between a Phragmites filled depression along Balltown Road
Mhm.
and, you know, like you said, like a nutrient or a ephemeral pond that has salamanders and it's untouched and everything like that. There's quite a difference in quality of wetlands, and that's what that varying buffer is trying to protect, I think. Yeah.
Have we covered all the stuff on that list prior, Ellen?
I mean, we did it, I mean, we're assuming that all the wildlife is gonna move into the park, is that what we're assuming?
Oh, Ellen, I don't think your microphone's on.
Yeah, I just was mentioning the wildlife that we're assuming that it's just gonna move it.
I mean, I think a good comment would be that it would be nice if they were protecting a little more upland. Because most of the land that they're not disturbing is wetland. So the things that would help the wildlife stay there would be to protect a little bit more of the uplands from disturbance. But one other thing I want to mention is, you know, a lot of times you guys kind of also mirror the other boards. Complete Streets wanted to see a little more sidewalks. There's places where the sidewalks are missing between the buildings, so they want to see connectivity to all buildings with sidewalks. And then Tree Council wanted to see a clearing plan and see how big some of the trees were that were being taken down and if any of them could be saved.
Mhm. Are we planting trees along the streets here?
They have a tree planting plan, but I think it needs a lot of work.
I mean-
Because it hasn't really been engineered yet. They are showing, and I mean, conceptually, they're showing a buffer along the back of these houses to the bike path, which of course would be very important. And they are showing trees. These little green blobs are the trees. So they are showing tree-lined streets. There's trees along the streets anywhere they can fit them, pretty much. So they are showing that. That'll get a little more refined in the site plan. But yeah, they are definitely planning to plant trees along the streets.
And how does the buffer from the townhouses that they're proposing along the bike path compare to Niskuna Harbor?
To River's Ledge.
River's Ledge, excuse me.
So I'd say this is actually the designer of this is the designer of the buffer along River's Ledge. Pretty similar.
Are they equivalent distance away? Is that?
I can, you know, Clark and I can look into that to you. I think they're probably pretty similar distance to the garages. The garages are one story, and they don't have any windows or anything on the back. So they're probably, my guess would be they're pretty similarly situated in terms of distance as the garages are to the bike path, but these are slightly bigger structures than the garages.
Yeah,
So
but these aren't garages. These are at least two-story buildings.
yeah, I think they probably will be two-story buildings. I don't think they've gotten that far into the design, but they'll also have like windows and stuff. So yeah, we might want to actually ask for a bigger buffer there potentially.
And I just want to make sure that I see this, that there is only one road in.
There's only one road in. There's
I know there's an
emergency
access road, so that means that every car that is going into that back lot is passing by these these townhouses.
yeah.
Townhouse.
And The TDE also made a point that this 90-degree intersection here, he doesn't like it for turning in because it's so close to Aqueduct Road. So another thing to potentially work on site plan is to see if this can be smoothed out so that there's not basically a stop sign so close to the Aqueduct Road, because that 90-degree intersection could be really problematic, he felt.
Yeah, I saw that, but I mean, so those 3 sets of units of 4 units each of those townhouses, every single solitary car that is going into the back
Would
is gonna
drive by
Is
them.
going to be driving by them
Yeah. Yep.
every single day.
Twice a day, 4 times a day. Yeah. We did, Andrew did say he thought, and I think this is a good idea too. If we, rather than this being emergency access, just make that a normal road, like some kind of agreement between Rivers Ledge. They could drive back and forth freely. That might help them a little. But yeah, I think even if they did make that a full road, you're still going to see the cars are really just probably going to use that entrance off of Aqueduct Road.
Laura, I have another question on this map in particular. It looks like, is this white area that curves and goes to the Mohawk, is that an easement for the old trolley?
That's a National Grid power line easement. There's a
That curve, the curve piece there that runs along the front and then curves out? Because it looks like
Yeah,
there's,
curved piece right here. This curved piece.
yeah,
Yeah, that's National Grid.
that's natural, okay. Because there was a trolley there at one time and I thought perhaps that was the bed.
That would be cool. I mean, it's possible that National Grid owns the old trolley bed.
'Cause you
They
can see
actually
the
keep
piers
this
out in
area
Mohawk.
clear. This is they don't have. I think these are actually their poles. They don't have a whole lot of infrastructure in here, but they do keep it clear. And then this
Yeah.
line over here is their huge line. Like this is a huge power line here.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
There was
okay.
there was a
Right.
trolley that went
Right.
across the river there.
So can I'm sorry. I just have, so is there a reason why they put the entrance road there and they just didn't move it farther down to the left so that every car wasn't driving by those homes?
Yeah, it's very
think
steep
it's-
over here.
I
So
think it's grading, I
it's
believe.
in order to get the grade. If they had it bring straight up here, actually there's a curb cut here. Do you see that?
Yeah.
But the lines are so close, they would never be able to get a good, it's way too steep. Ah, whoopsie.
Okay. Okay.
The other
Ju-
thing
ju-
we have asked about this project is the diversity of housing, which I think is really important in elevations.
I mean, some of these things are tying in perfectly with the other thing that's going on with the planning board that Laura and I worked on today. The planning board is scheduled to do a resolution making a recommendation on the plan to the town board for the March 23rd planning board meeting. So this afternoon, Laura and I worked with the 2 project leads from the planning board to outline some of the things that would be in that recommendation. And they were similar topics, things like building density, interior open space, the impact on schools, recreational area. So those things are all going to be weaved into the recommendation.
So the recommendation that's going before the town board is for,
Allowing a planned unit development. It's kind of like allowing a special use permit. You can think of it like that. Only it's actually a zoning district.
so that's something different than the PUD.
No, it is the PUD. I'm just saying you can think of it kind of like a special use
Oh,
permit.
okay. So for
Right.
some reason, I thought the PUD was already approved.
No, the last time you guys made a recommendation, that was to allow the application of the PUD. It's a very arduous process.
We
It's-
don't
it's-
really do that often.
The process is worded a little strangely for a PUD. They get approval to submit the application for the PUD. And then there's a phase that they're in right now called sketch plan, but it's a much more detailed review than like sketch plan for a subdivision. It's a much deeper dive. And that's what they're on right now, this sketch plan phase.
So you see, here's my concern with this project. I mean, just, we've talked about a lot of issues here, and we're going to be asked to make a recommendation on the environmental impact of this project, but these issues are not going to be resolved. So in the past, and we did this for the project adjacent to it, is we saw, before we made a recommendation, we saw all the elevations, we saw the drainage, we saw the traffic studies and everything like that. I personally am concerned that we don't have enough information here. There's just too many open-ended questions for us to actually make an informed decision.
So the applicant talks about that a lot. I think River's Ledge may have had some more of that, but our code doesn't actually require that level of detail, and they're worried about doing the engineering if they don't get approval for the planned unit development. So what they're asking for is they'll do that level of detail at site plan with the planning board.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying, Laura, and I can appreciate their concern. But again, I think, at least, I'm not speaking for the board, but my concern is I'm not sure this PUD is viable as a project without, addressing some of these environmental issues regardless. I mean,
The way Laura and I approached that this afternoon, we had examples from River's Ledge for that project. And then we were also using the approval that was given to allow this PUD application to go forward. And we felt like we would have a number of topics that would be addressed in the resolution as a whereas, like laying out some of the facts of the design. But then they might also have a condition or conditions in the resolution that put some requirements on that, like kind of like what you're saying, Dart, that would require some additional information, or
so how?
Put- so it wouldn't be a blanket approval.
No,
It
no,
would
but
have,
how would we do it? I mean, like, let's take something that's not subjective and hard fact, traffic. Would we put that there would be limits on the amount of cars that could go in and out? Would we define that limit in the resolution? Because, there may be no problem with the cars, but Aqueduct Road is a very heavily traveled road.
Well, they did traffic for this, didn't they? Yeah, they,
We don't have the final
oh, we have the,
configuration. So,
okay.
or do we?
Well, I don't know. It said
Maybe
it meant-
that's not the right example, but I'm just saying
yeah,
there's a lot of open ends here, right? And
Yeah.
maybe we need to have clarity on what that resolution is going to say.
yeah, I think the resolution is very important because you're right. Everything is not completely buttoned down and exactly defined.
I mean, I
You
understand this
do
is a
kind of
PUD.
get sort of,
This is
I
a
mean,
PUD,
you
but
do kind of get another crack at it when it comes for the engineering, but they did do a traffic study, but it
yeah,
hasn't been reviewed by the TDE quite yet. So, some of that could
I-
change.
I was trying to pick just something
right. Yeah.
that is
Yeah.
non-subjective and objective, and maybe that was not, I wasn't implying they hadn't done any work there. I was just trying to use that as an example. But, I mean, it just,
Feels like it's not ready.
I just think that we look at projects that are proposed, and we look at all the engineering, we look at the stormwater, we look at the utilities, we look at the elevations. There's a lot of information in which we make our recommendation. And my concern is, Laura, that if we go in here and we sort of quasi-approve this plan, saying, oh, all this stuff is going to be worked out at the end, I mean, what is going to happen when the developer comes back and says, I've spent X million dollars
Yeah.
engineering this up, and all of a sudden, the lighting's bad, we haven't resolved the stormwater drainage, we have the traffic flow issues, we don't have public access through the roads to go to the park. I mean, these are the issues that this board sort of makes their decision on.
Yeah, I understand.
I
Yeah.
think it's a good point, Laura, especially on something like the access to the trail that we had talked about to get from the bike path down to that trail that goes by the river.
Right.
Because that's been brought up a couple times and they really don't want to add in that connecting link to
Yeah.
to get there.
But
So
you have to.
but I hear what Dart is saying though. That's kind of a big unresolved issue
Yeah.
that
Well, I'd say I think that's really fair. Like I think one of the comments we could say is that there's a lot of big outstanding environmental questions that we don't have answers to yet. So when we're putting these comments together, maybe we start off with that and then we add all the things that we outlined today and then we send it over to the applicant.
Yeah, I mean.
And
Go
I
ahead,
also, I mean, I know we're talking about the density and they keep, and, part of this is the affordability, and the denser we make it, the more affordable that it's going to be. But I guess I need a perspective on what affordability looks like.
There are prices.
I
in
didn't
there.
see them. I'm sorry.
They haven't really given
But it
prices
was
'cause
general,
market
but-
changes,
Okay.
but I know they're trying to keep it low.
I mean,
I guess the way to look at this, Laura, is the secret basically says the project may have a substantial impact. And I think this board, we've identified several possible substantial impacts, and it's hard to evaluate what those are, right? I mean,
Right. So and at that point you say, well, it's time for an environmental impact statement because we have to look at these alternatives more closely.
right.
well, I
But
think
is that really what we want to do here?
to me, it almost feels like I'll call them the gray areas that are coming up here, and the things that have to be defined for this resolution making a recommendation by the planning board to the town board. They're almost the same group of subjects, and we have to kind of wade through them and list them and identify if some of them can be mitigated with a condition where you can solve them by saying, if this condition is met, it will eliminate the ambiguity. Or it seems like it's the same group of gray areas, and we just need to list them and decide where we're going, like the connection to the path by the river, that.
Yeah, some of these are easier. Some of these are easier, I think, to define. I don't mean to do all the talking here.
No.
Okay. I think some of these are easier to work through than others, but if you take something like the density, I mean, how are you going to do this for some other things? I mean, this is the difference between this could be a really good project. It's a real asset to the town, but it could easily turn out to be not that, and this is a very important piece of property.
And just to balance it out, like Laura had mentioned, the applicant is saying they're looking to get to the highest level of detail they can without having to do all the detailed stormwater design right now. So they're trying to show conceptually what the stormwater approach would be, and then say when they dig into that, they realize they may have to slightly adjust a building or something based on the size of the stormwater pipe. But I hear what you're saying. That's kind of a variable that you don't know exactly what it's going to look like right now. So
You could do another thing where you made a recommendation because the planned unit development is kind of that higher level. We're setting the zoning. This is what we conceptually think should go there. If you make your recommendation on is this the right place for a planned unit development? Is it working towards that mixture of open space? Is the clustering acceptable? And then withhold the site plan, and then you'd be able to look at the environmental impacts more closely for the site plan. Or you just have enough outstanding questions that at this point you really want to take a hard look at the alternatives.
I certainly hear what you're saying, Laura.
Laura, I have another question. Has historic preservation been looked at? Because the site is near the former Erie Canal. Is some kind of approval required?
Yeah, super good question. I believe he said that they have a SHPO letter forthcoming. So the State Historic Preservation Office is called SHPO. They've been out on the site and done some digging and looked at what they're proposing to do. And I believe that they think a letter of no effect, meaning it should not impact any historic preservation issues, is forthcoming. I don't think we've received it yet, but I know they're working on it. And I think the reason that probably there's no impact is because they're really not touching the canal bed because of all those wetlands. So Rivers Ledge had a much, bigger lift because they were actually in the canal bed, like moving those stones around and stuff. These guys aren't doing that. They're staying away from those areas.
But I think there's also a concern that this area was a prehistoric site as well.
Yeah, they go and they dig in plots. They'll divide up the land and do random plots and look for things like
They do that, because I know that there was some concern in the past, not on this parcel, but on parcels near the Mohawk.
Yeah, I think if that gets triggered on their there's like a SHPO map. And if it's triggered for potential prehistoric, they have to go in and do those randomized plots where they dig down and look for artifacts.
Okay. But the SHPO should cover that, right? The letter.
SHPO will cover that. I think it did actually qualify as prehistoric, so they probably did have to do some of those digs. They have been working on that for a while. Because I know E1 had to do that. E1's not very far away. And Rivers Ledge, no, I don't think Rivers Ledge had to do that because there's already a junkyard.
So I would just, I think that this is too dense. I think that it's too much for this area to hold in order to have a nice look for the river and for the quality of life for the people that live here and who are going to own these parcels. That's my opinion. I mean, they put all their 10 units on the outside. So those are going to be taller and bigger than the 4 units on the inside. So all the people on the inside are not going to be able to see the river, which is the whole point of living there. Right? To have that so, I mean, if I was, nobody asked me, but I would put you would have the smaller units on the outside and the bigger units on the inside, but.
Isn't that what they have though, Ellen?
Yeah, they do have the smaller units on the outside. The 4 units.
Why does mine say 10? Am I looking at the wrong?
No, there's an old plan that says 10. It might still be in that EAF. They need to update all their drawings. But the new one, they did put the smaller buildings on the outside.
All right, can you tell me what page that one is on then? So I'm
73.
Okay, I thought that's what I was looking at, but maybe I was looking at 105.
Yeah, because I wonder if they have the old plan in their environmental impact.
It is on page 105, I believe, because I just
so
I made a fool of myself.
Tell them to change that. The one thing they did say though is they're actually much farther away from the river than Rivers Ledge. Like Rivers Ledge doesn't have this big chunk of green forest. Rivers Ledge, the river comes right up to the edge of the canal bed. So they actually think these homes won't really have a view to the river. It's not going to be like Rivers Ledge. So,
okay.
Yeah.
I'm on the right map now again.
Yeah, they got to get rid of that 10. That's an older plan, so we got to get them to get rid of that.
Well, it's just in our packet. It's on page 105. And when I was
Yeah, they
scrolling
probably
through and looking for the price adjustments and stuff, I ended up stopping at the first map I saw instead of going back to 73. So my apologies.
Hey, Laura, just a suggestion. I mean, one of the things we've done on the planning board on some of these projects is we've had a little working session to get together and
Great idea.
talk about some of these things. Like if a person or two, like the planning board has a lead or a co-lead for a project, if we wanted to capture or draft up a document that we could bring to the next CAC meeting to be reviewed by the group to try to put together a list. I'm just throwing it out there as a thought.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. We could do that, and maybe we could, if one of you guys wanted to volunteer, we could have an internal meeting with the CAC representative and the developer too, to just go over these things.
I really do think what we're talking about and what is going to be worked on for the town board from the planning board are going to have a lot of overlap, and there
Yeah.
some good things will come out of both of those.
Yeah, we should definitely have a meeting.
Do you guys want to designate a representative?
Mm,
You don't have to. I just think it does help.
I think we should have representation on the board. I would be willing to do that, but I do not. If somebody wants to do it, they should have the opportunity to do it.
And the way we do it at the planning board, we don't put everybody on the spot. You could think about it and get back to Dart if they.
Do you know when the meeting is? Like,
We
are
will
they
set
during the workday or later?
We kind of just schedule them whatever works for everyone. This one we just had was during the workday, but they could be a video conference. You know, they could be at a time that's convenient for people.
People want to think about it? and
Yeah,
Then
think-
maybe just reach out to Laura and myself, just so we know.
And all it's doing is help gel and consolidate things that then come back to the board. You know, that would come back to the CAC. It's not anything that's being done behind closed doors. It's just helping to organize it.
There is
It's
a
been
lot.
working really well for the
Yeah.
planning board.
Yeah.
The two project leads have been meeting with us more regularly. They just, I think, have a deeper understanding, and then that helps them lead the board.
okay.
Yeah, especially on projects like this that we don't do that often.
Yeah, this is only the second one in like 40 years, maybe more.
Have we, Laura, we need to clarify this list, or do you think you can get that out of the minutes, or will the representative that we send to this meeting be empowered to go through them?
Yeah, I think we can get them out of the minutes.
All right. What I would suggest we do then, Laura, if we can get them out of the minutes and we can send them to everybody on the CAC, and they can comment on them, just to make sure we've captured everything.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably going to take us a little while. I'm a little behind on a bunch of things, but as soon as
I
it's
don't mean,
ready, I'll send
I
it
don't
to
mean
you guys.
for you to do it. I'm just saying, can the town leverage this a little bit?
We'll do that, and we'll also include the topics that are coming out of the planning board discussion. And I
Yeah.
think the big new one that's been introduced tonight is the idea of looking beyond the 25-year storm. Could we do
Yeah.
something like that?
Because from what I've read, it's pretty much established that that's not adequate anymore.
Yeah, I thought we had established that as well.
Yeah. Yeah, we did have a discussion on that, didn't
We established that for the Polsinelli subdivision for sure.
We've done it for others too.
We did it for Seneca Road too, I think.
Oh, you're right, Clark. Yep, we did.
Yeah.
was
we? Yeah, I mean, that's a classic example. Maybe something that was adequate years ago, but is completely inadequate. And I think that any stormwater system has to look at the impact of the wetlands all the way out to the Mohawk.
model the water
Yeah.
all the way out to the Mohawk. Yeah.
And these units, the ones that are near the storm, so none of them have basements, right? They're all,
I believe the townhomes would have basements, but none of the other units would have basements.
Yeah, I think that's what he said. The shale is, bedrock is pretty close to the surface, probably in that area. Like River's Ledge actually had to blast.
What was it, shale?
Bedrock.
okay.
Yeah. It's the first time we've ever had dynamite in our town. I feel like.
I mean, do we know what type of rock it was? Bedrock?
Oh, yeah, I think it's shale. Yeah.
All right.
All right, do we have a plan forward for this?
I mean, the notes I have that Ellen referenced the list, the CAC's list that was in the agenda statement. That's a good list of topics. Then the discussion on the 25-year storm event on that going more towards a more intense storm event. We can double check, and Joy had mentioned those much larger buffers for certain circumstances, the 300-foot, 800-foot. Then the nutrient pool on the stormwater basins, just make sure that whole stormwater gets looked at.
Well, the concentration of integrating the retention ponds in a wetland.
Mm-hmm. And then just looking at the topics that the planning board is looking at that I had mentioned, impact on schools, those types of things. Then we'll set up a working session
Yep.
and we'll circulate the topics to the CAC, a list of those topics.
We have the access to the public parking.
Yeah,
That was in the original list.
yeah. We talked about that a little bit this afternoon too, how there was a whole logic to the parking that I believe they weren't going to allow people to park on the street. And there was some strategy on where they were putting overflow parking lots. So just weaving that into things as well.
All right.
But if anything comes up that, strikes your mind, shoot us an email and we'll roll that into it.
Okay. Let's move on. Unless someone else has anything they want to discuss on this project. Okay. Laura, do we have any discussion items or Clark? None?
Not planning items.
Okay. Then let's move on to the Climate Smart Communities Task Force. And we have lost our guests.
That's okay. He's actually, I think,
School night.
deciding whether or not he was going to join CAC or zoning board. So
Uh-oh.
he was just listening.
Okay. We've scared them away. Okay. Is there any update for the government climate action plan?
Yeah. I met with the consultant before I went in for my surgery and connected him with the engineering department and with Charlie in the building maintenance department. And so he started doing his internal connections. What he's going to do is he's going to take the greenhouse gas inventory and then he's going to start talking to the department heads that run the wastewater treatment plant and the fleets and get their sense of, what kind of energy reduction, where they could look for energy reduction, like what it would take to move to electric fleet, like all that kind of stuff. Just
Mhm.
start working with them. And he's got a meeting. Oh, and Ashok's gonna go. So I think they've got their meetings. He started up his meetings and he's working away. So he's really diving into it. I think it'll be a little while to meet with the different departments, but we're hoping, I think, to have a draft here in several months. I think when we'll put all of the different departments, conversations and ideas and kind of see where we land with a plan to reduce emissions from the town with goals.
Okay. Okay, all right, ongoing initiatives. We had a couple emails, and there was one from the coordinator for the national group, Quiet.
Yeah, I saw that.
Ms. Kihuna?
They re-
I had something to tell them, but
Oh, the other lady, yeah.
Yeah. So what
no, but someone from the national.
the national chapter reached out to us and said, "Oh, you have a organization. They're looking for us to join." That's the sense I got out of that.
Yeah.
Did she have any information to help inform our board members on the positive effects or how it was, implemented or what might be, help with their questions?
I don't think we know yet. I have to like make the connection and answer her,
Oh,
which I will.
okay.
But I'm more interested in how the legislation is going through our own process. I believe it's been 4 months as of yesterday since I brought it to this group for the first time. So where is it? It seems like it's losing steam, and I don't understand like what it takes to get it to the town board. I know that people have to look at it and digest, but I feel like that point has happened.
Well, I know that it seems like government takes a long time and then it takes even longer, but we had a really robust discussion at I think at Ashok's meeting. It was less robust, and then at my meeting, it was a little more robust. My sense is they're definitely supportive of it, but they want a little more information on like how it's been implemented, what like I think they wanted to see like if we could reach out to some of the landscaping companies to see how they transition so that we could give that information to the ones that work here. And they also wanted to do like more of a public campaign ahead of adopting it, like just to get the word out and get a temperature from the town on adopting it.
Who was that, Laura? Was that the facilities
So at
committee?
the
Or?
Economic Development Planning and Land Use, Aaron and Sarah, they're pretty supportive of it, but they want to make sure that we get, information out to people, it's understandable, and that we talk to landscaping companies that have transitioned so that we can help our landscaping companies transition. They just wanted to have, what they really wanted was just to make sure that we're not rolling out legislation without clearly communicating and having a plan for implementation and adoption and stuff like that.
Sure, I'm just looking for what is the mechanism when the committee has a meeting and they have formal feedback and questions, and then we get that to work on those things. Or maybe this is the
Well, I think
mechanism.
normally the mechanism is me, but I've been out a lot, so I apologize for that. I'm hoping that the workflow will start working better when I start working more hours again. But
Okay.
yeah, normally I think I'd be the one that said, okay, here it was. This is what you guys got to keep working on, move you forward. But that's the nice thing about having a monthly meeting, because I have to touch base with you guys about it. And you can watch the meeting too if you're interested. They talked about it at Ashok's meeting too, but not as much. We talked about it a lot at my meeting, right at the end of the meeting. And that was when they were really discussing like sort of the public information and just having a little more touching base with a community that has adopted it. They really wanted a community that had adopted it near us, but I don't think there is one.
There isn't one. That's the whole point.
Yeah, it's
In fact, I
Westchester.
think it's an achievement if we're the first. So
Yeah, I think so
instead
too.
of
I
riding
totally-
coattails, I'd like to be the ones that actually
Lead the way.
set that
Well,
example.
what I
Right.
would suggest we do, we don't have a community nearby, but we can talk to communities.
Westchester, et cetera. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
Westchester
I
is
think
great.
maybe you can't always get what you want, but you have enough. So
Yeah.
I think we should reach out to the community and just see how it went.
I can try that. And Laura, when they said landscapers that have adjusted, do they mean in those communities that have done it?
Yeah, they
Oh,
wanted.
okay.
Yeah, they wanted to see, because obviously, like, if Long Island and Westchester have adopted a lot of this,
Yep.
the landscaping companies would have had to have adjusted. So, they wanted to see how that worked. Because, you know, we also talked to, like, the highway department got some electric landscaping and they were using it, but the batteries kept dying on them. The batteries were really challenging for them. So I think even just seeing how the landscaping company are doing it would be helpful even for our guys too, because some of the feedback was it's that the batteries just don't last long enough for them right now. So how are they handling that, the landscaping companies? And that's actually almost an aside, but we did come up during the meeting. So even just talking to those landscaping and seeing how those commercial entities are managing, you know, hours at a time of electric equipment would be really useful.
Okay, I can start there.
The other thing we could do is circulate the minutes from the EDH PEC meeting Laura mentioned, so that would have,
I think that would be helpful.
that would help you guys see what the discussion was around.
I also think that would be really nice if we know when that meeting is, so that we, like, one of us or two of us
We
could
we
come.
have a rep. Unfortunately, I was unable to attend
Oh,
that meeting.
what? Okay. What?
There's
what meet-
another one this Friday, so I am going to be at that meeting.
Okay, because I have that on my list of things to go to too. As
Yeah.
okay, all right.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I
Jared
was
always does that one.
called out of town, so
Is that a public one or?
yeah, it's public.
Yeah, it's public. You could come if you wanted.
You could come.
It's 9 a.m.
Yeah, we're moving it to the town boardroom. I guess it's been working pretty good in there, so we'll see how that works.
Yeah, I saw that email.
Here,
Yeah.
this town worker.
Yeah, but you remember how the CAC used to have the tables in front, and then we changed it for COVID, and because we do the hybrid meetings so that you can hear people, they're doing it with the tables in the front again. But I think they got different microphones. So
Okay, we got a second letter that Chuck reached out to Justine Hellner about Lomo on routes on Block 7. And she's willing to talk to us on the 1st. That would be our next meeting,
On the first.
on the 1st of April.
Oh, okay.
She it doesn't say if she's going to be here in person or she said that she would be happy to meet with us on April 1st.
Okay. So, well, Chuck's not here. I mean, do we have? I haven't walked that area that we're specifically looking at, so I think that needs to be done before April 1st, so that we have an idea of what it looks like.
The Lock 7 area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, because there are definitely places that you could do it, but there are definitely places that you wouldn't be such a great idea, you know.
Like
I mean,
the-
well, I'm just saying because they just expanded it in the canal, and they just put down like picnic tables. So yeah, so maybe not where the picnic tables are, but maybe on the other side or something. That's, I guess, was what
Mhm.
I just, we should be clear on the area before we have the meeting on April 1st, I guess is what I'm saying.
Okay. Do you want to take that on?
I will, no, I think whoever got the letter should just respond.
Okay.
Chuck, I think should,
All right.
That's fine.
I-
I'd be happy to go with him and talk to him and walk the area, but I don't want to do it myself. No.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I wasn't trying, you have,
I'm doing the Lomo over
You-
on
you've
the
done
other
the Lomo
side,
for
and
a
I'm
long
taking
time.
care of
Yeah.
taking care of the wildflowers over there. I have.
I don't know what Chuck's familiarity is with
Well, I'll
that.
did he receive it as well? I don't. When you say
Chuck reached out to the woman and then she basically reached out to Chuck, and then Chuck forwarded the email to myself, Laura.
okay.
or his response. So,
Okay. Well, that was great news. That's good, right?
yeah, I'm just on the email chain and I just,
Yeah.
the other day.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, maybe we can follow up with Chuck on that. All right, so are there any other items that we need to discuss on this list for this meeting?
Okay. So there was like two things that I just wanted to quickly mention.
Go ahead.
So I did reach out to Christopher Williams for the Capitol Reach and Prism invasive species coordinator, and he suggested that we start small and that we try to gain some partners. So it's on my list of things to do. There is an IMAP invasive like training for adapting, for plant identification and mapping for, so you could start with that. But I think the first thing I kind of need to, or we need to start with if we're going to do this is to just see if we can, he says it's the best if you just pick specific areas and work on those specific areas. So like working with Leishakil, the partners of Leishakil, they already have a base of volunteers. Maybe perhaps some of the places that they walk through for the National Resource Inventory that we could do. I mean, you can look just right straight across the street from the town hall and see the how it's overtaking the every year it's taking over the I always call them pussy willows, but they're not pussy willows. They're the
Blue Stripe?
what are they called again?
Cattails.
The cattails. Yeah, the cattails are getting the Hermites, or is that what they're called? Hermites.
Phragmites.
Phragmites. I knew it was a mites. Sorry. How they're being overtaken. So I mean, could start right there. So that was my goal for this meeting. So my next goal will be to figure out, send out perhaps some emails and some a letter to the editor to see if anybody's interested in the town, or put up a help wanted sign that we want some people to come and help us. So that was that.
Yeah.
That was what I had for that.
Wait, can I just tag on to that? GE Renova formed like a little invasive species committee for their lands and reached out to me and asked me if I could help them. So I will, but they're all interested in removing the Phragmites on their property and stuff and keeping it all native. So that was really exciting.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great. That's great news. And maybe we just pick like a species like the Phragmites and we start to try to keep them clear. Anyways. Okay. And then the other thing that, I'm sorry, I don't have my little notes in front of me. Oh, so for composting. So the composting project that I did, so I went and I presented and I made my 2 plans and of having 2 drop stations. I'm still waiting to hear from somebody, but now that we're done with the water bill, I think we can move on to this. And we're going to try to, my goal is to get them built and then to try to get one over here at the library. And then the other thing is that I went to a community composting where it's a larger scale, and I sent it to the water department in Cameron, who was interested in composting in the town, and similar to what it looks like at Fair Avenue. So that allows us to compost 1,000 pounds of compost a week without it being, if once you go over 1,000, collect more than 1,000 pounds, then you have other regulations for DEC. But this would be, we could do it under, 1,000 pounds. So I was going to start seeing about that.
Do we have an idea of what 1,000 pounds is? I mean, how many households is that? Do you know? Or-
Oh, it's a lot.
It sounds like a lot, but I was just,
Yeah. Well, because it's a school, they do a couple of schools in Schenectady, right? And that's where they bring it. Is it just one, Zeller? And then I can ask the person that does it there. I bring compost there, but mine has to be under the community compost that I got when I did at the farmer's market. I continue to, it's in my garage, in my driveway, and people still drop in my driveway in the same can, and I just bring it over every week or whenever it's full. And it's obviously much less in the wintertime, but it just has to be under 100 pounds a week. So that's what he said he could accept from me. So anyways, that's, I think that's all I have to share.
Okay.
Can't think of anything else right now.
Clark, do you have anything? Laura, do you have anything you want to add?
Nope,
Comments,
I'm
Mark?
good. Thanks for checking.
Okay. Are we done?
I believe so.
Okay, I'd make a motion that we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
I
I
Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you, everybody.
thank you. Bye bye.